Support for this podcast comes from the law firm of Davis Malm. Whether you're a developer, property owner, manager, or commercial tenant, their real estate attorneys know the lay of the land, not just the law. Learn more at davismalm.com.
WBUR Podcasts, Boston.
I'm Darryl C. Murphy, and you're listening to The Common. WBUR education reporter Carrie Jung, welcome back to The Common.
Hey, Darryl. I'm really glad to be here.
So glad to have you. So, Carrie, you've got a story for us today about a new program at Salem High School that's cracking down on cell phone use by having students lock their phones away. Walk me through this. What does it look like? How does it work? Talk to me.
So this looks like a small gray pouch. It's about the size of a cell phone. It's supposed to actually fit your cell phone pretty snugly.
Okay.
And it's got this little button lock at the top, basically. So you snap it together. The kids snap it together before they get into school. And then teachers, school officials will check before kids get to class that their Yonder is the company that makes it, that the Yonder pouches are in fact locked and in their bags. Then they stay there throughout the day. In the high school, at least, they do let the students unlock them during lunch. That was sort of a concession, understanding that, students have to work during the day or after school.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want to allow students to make sure that they can check schedules, maybe they're caregiving. And so then they have to lock them back up before they go back to class. The unlocking mechanisms are pretty simple. Actually, it's just a magnet. It looks kind of like a button that the school either you screw it onto the wall or I saw the principal at the high school just kind of holding the small button in his hand.
Got it. And I know I'm asking about the high school, but they also do this at the middle school in the district as well.
They do. It was actually piloted there last year. And because it was overall, the idea was successful, the district decided to continue it this year and expand it to the high school.
Got it.
So this really started right after the pandemic. One of the guidance counselors that I was talking to there said, phones were kind of a thing. You'd see them here and there. Students were actually pretty respectful about paying attention in class and not, being distracted pre-pandemic. But post-pandemic, they said it was just they were everywhere. And the students were constantly distracted. And even one of the students actually told me, we used to just bump into each other because we'd walk out of class and be looking at our phones and not looking where we're going.
Yeah.
And it was a concern over student mental health, student social development, but also the attention that they could give their academics.
Do you think this is a way to continue to help students reacclimate to the classroom after, the disruption of the pandemic?
Oh, absolutely. The way it was described to me was, without as much social interaction or losing social interaction totally during the pandemic, then you come back and, middle school, high school is a really important developmental time. And so if you're kind of nervous about making new friends and you have this easy crutch of your phone to just be like, okay, I'm going to see what's on Instagram and talk to just the small circle of people that I'm friends with already. That was a big concern among the school officials.
Got it. Hold on, I have to check my phone real quick.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, how are the students responding to this?
So I have been so surprised by the student responses, and that's actually been my favorite part of reporting this story. So you have some students like Annie Thornett, who is an 11th grader, and she's kind of meh on the whole thing. Here's how she described it.
They're fine. I don't mind them as much as I thought I would, but I don't like them. I get it during lunch, so I was mostly stressed about text my mom if I needed a ride or something, and I can text her, so it's not that bad.
Yeah, so she's learning to get used to it, but she's kind of I'd rather have my phone. But outside of the it's whatever, I guess, kind of response, you have students like Rocco Ryan. He was a total, 180 on this, really.
Yeah.
When I asked Rocco at first, what he thought of this policy. He was like, oh, at first I was really mad. I didn't want to come to school. I was like, why do we even need to do this? Pretty upset. When I met him, they'd been having the pouch policy at the high school for about a week. And even in just that short amount of time, he's like, actually, yeah, I love it. And I said, well, what changed your tune? And he said, so I realized that I really wasn't focusing as well in class. He also said something that got to the school officials' concerns about students interacting more with each other, exercising their social skills. And he really expanded his friend group, he told me.
Most of my friends are all athletes. Like I play sports, and it's cool. Like all these kids that I would never think I would speak to in my life, I'm talking to now. So it's cool that I get to, meet new people and actually make new connections.
Well, look at that.
So he was fully on board by the end of it. And then there are, of course, other people who really hate the idea, think it's an abuse of power, I've heard.
Well, okay. Let's get into that, right? Because like you said, Salem High has been doing this for, a few weeks now, right?
Yeah, at this point.
But the middle school in the district has been using it since last school year, right? What did the middle school learn from the pilot, and what did the high school take away from that?
For the most part, my understanding is that the middle school program was very successful.
Okay.
It did what officials set out to do, and that was have students talk to each other more. I know the guidance counselors there were like night and day. Same with teachers and the students' ability to focus. They were sort of the loudest proponents of this, I'm told. Some of the adjustments that they've made for the high school have to do with just the logistics of getting this set up, the number of magnets that you need to use to unlock the phone. That they've worked that out, where they need to be, how to get students into school so there's not these bottlenecks, of like the checkpoints and things that, because students need to get to class to learn too. So there has been some adjustments, but overall they were like, no, we're keeping the pouches.
Got it. Did you talk to any parents?
So I did talk to one parent. She gave me just her first name, Melissa, and she said that overall, she gets why the school is doing this, understands it, but her big holdup was that, what if an emergency happens at school, a school shooting? And her words really kind of shook me in this sense.
A parent wants to be able to not think about that moment, but be able to hear from the child if it is a last moment possibility.
That's even
it's really sobering.
On her mind is,
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Did you kill Marlene Johnson?
I think you're one of the first people to have actually asked.
From WBUR and ZSP Media, this is Beyond All Repair, a new podcast about an unsolved murder that will leave you questioning everything.
Somebody should be in jail for murdering my sister.
A woman who's never been believed.
As long as they think I have done this, then they're not looking for who actually did this.
And that's what makes it a cold case.
No, it's a botched case.
And a search for the truth, once and for all.
Wow, it just gets more interesting.
Beyond All Repair. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
Be careful. You're digging in a place that's been very peaceful for a while.
Do it anyway. Dig.
And we are back with more from Carrie Jung. So, Carrie, I want to take a step back and ask you, what do we know about the impact of cell phone use on student well-being?
Yeah, so there have been a couple of studies done already, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, and they show different things. There is no study that says social media is wholly a bad thing, and the time spent on there is not necessarily bad, but others do show that there is a strong correlation with time spent on social media, time spent on your cell phone, and teenage self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
So that correlation has been shown to exist in different studies. There, are also studies that link teenage depression and the amount of time spent on the internet and cell phones. So just like any kind of scientific body of research, there's varying results, but most of them do show that there is a correlation with mental health struggles and being online.
Got it. Are any other districts doing a program like this?
Yeah, so more and more are actually kind of experimenting with ways to do this. Not every school district that has tried to implement a cell phone policy is using these, they're called Yonder pouches.
Yep.
It goes school by school. In Boston Public Schools, it's definitely not a district-wide thing, but there are a couple schools that are using it at BPS. I do know at Concord Carlisle, a couple teachers last year were experimenting with like these cell phone caddies. Essentially, the teachers would hang them up, and that was sort of the way they took attendance, was if your phone was in your caddy, and so you couldn't have it during class. It's definitely something that districts are trying more and more of. The state is trying to encourage schools to experiment with this as well. Last year at the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, which is like just the State Board of Education, the Commissioner of Education held a sort of a roundtable or panel discussion of some of the different school examples when it comes to cell phone policies, how they were working out. And then over the summer, the state announced funding for a grant program. Salem, for example, applied for the grant and is using that to pay for the pouches for the high school.
Yep.
But, if a district is like, well, we're going to try, the caddy, it would help make that easier if you want to, try something.
Got it. So is it safe to expect to see more districts in the state doing this? This type of program is here to stay, basically.
I think it is picking up steam for sure. And I think it's something that at least school officials are seeing work pretty well. Not all parents are convinced about this. I've heard some tell me that it was a waste of money, especially because kids can kind of hack into them. And they're not perfect.
Yeah,
but
did you see that?
I had one student hack into the phone for me. He's like, yeah, it's pretty easy. You want to see? And the sort of counterpoint to that is, yes, they can break into their phones, but the way the district, at least in Salem, is trying to address that is if we see your cell phone out, there's much harsher punishments now for that than in years past. So the fact that it's hackable is only part of the equation.
Well, Carrie, thank you so much for coming through to The Common and talking to us about this story. We really, really appreciate it. I'll be interested to see how this turns out.
Yeah, I'll call you to tell you more on your cell phone.
That's WBUR education reporter Carrie Jung. And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening to The Common. If you like what you're hearing, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, especially Apple or Spotify. Rate and review us. We would really, really appreciate it. Thank you ahead of time. Also, if you want to get in touch with us, hit us up on Instagram at WBUR The Common, or send us an email at thecommon@wbur.org. And you can do it on your cell phone. I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.